Hey everyone! So I played through Neon White recently. It's this really fun indie game where the objective is to speedrun through the level as fast as possible. And it has this really cool anime style to it. A lot of the game's exposition is conveyed with these awesome 2D illustrations, so I wanted to do my own 3D take on the main character. The one in the game is still good, it just kinda strays from the 2D design. That probably doesn't matter to anybody else but myself, since it's almost never shown and everything in this game goes by very fast anyway. But I just wanted to see how closely I can get it to match. It's been a while since I've done any stylized work. So inside the game, this isn't actually the character's face, this is a mask. So some of the features are like a skull, some of them are like a face, and I started out from a sphere so I could quickly block out everything. I used Shift A to mask the neck area, and then just used the move tool to pull it down, before remeshing everything with voxel remesh. Now the shape of the whole thing isn't entirely clear from the concept, simply because of the visual style, a lot of it is flat shaded, but we can still tell that the cheekbones are kind of like on a skull, and the lower jaw is pretty much just a bare mandible. But still, a lot of it is stylized, so it's kind of a unique shape. For making these sharp teeth, you'll notice I used an orange colored grab brush. It's just a grab brush which I modified to use a sharp fall off. It is tremendously useful to have. I use it very often, and the other thing you might see me do a lot is when the inner circle of the grab brush disappears, it means I'm using it with projected fall off. That one is a big deal for me. I've wanted to have that one in Zbrush since forever. Anyway, I added all the other teeth using separate objects. That's definitely the more sensible approach. And then again, I'm using my grab brush variations to sculpt them into shape. So we definitely have like a samurai style thing with this mask. As well as the character himself, his main weapon is a katana, but I'm not going to be sculpting the whole character. I gotta say, it brings me huge joy whenever I see an indie game like this, which was made with heart and soul, make it big or at least big enough where it justifies the whole endeavor for the developers. And whenever I get the opportunity, I love working on projects like this. But this isn't a sponsored video or anything, by the way. I would love to work with these guys though. I mean for actual modeling work, not sponsored content. Anyway, right now a smart thing to do would be to line up a camera and set this as a background image, but I am doing this for fun, so I'm just kinda eyeballing it. I will be tweaking the proportions later on. You'll see me quickly switch between objects while on scope mode using Alt-Q. That's what that red highlight flash is. By default it's orange, but I'm using custom colors. Now, normally I would have added the ears in the very beginning, but for now I'm just focusing on the mask. I added the head shape to kind of approximate where it's going to go, but I am going to completely cut it off later. So I am kind of starting to refine the shapes a little bit, but still not committing to anything too much. This is still voxel topology. I've mentioned this before, but I find it very annoying trying to add any sort of refinement to a mesh which just doesn't have the topology for it. It's not impossible, just kind of a waste of time. And I am talking about topology, not density. I want to clarify that, just in case. Okay, so now I'm adding some poly paint. There obviously isn't that much to it for this character, but still even just this black color is going to be very helpful in matching the concept. Shout out to Adam Millard, by the way, for making me aware of this game. That's right, I like to help out the little channels here on YouTube. I very rarely have time to play games nowadays, but almost everything I've played in the last couple of years has been by his recommendation. Indie games like this are usually great for people like me. They tend to just tell an interesting short story, so they don't take long to finish and they leave you with a lasting experience. Also, as a game dev myself, I can appreciate that the people who made it have obviously put a lot of love and attention into it. Okay, so you may have noticed that we just jumped into Zbrush. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to cut out the mask from the rest of the mesh, and while I can do that in Blender using the lasso trim tool, that tool unfortunately is really slow. Also, I don't know of a way to quickly close a hole like this, but it's very easy and quick to do it in Zbrush. And there's also the fact that I have Z-Remesher as part of Zbrush, but I still haven't bought Quad Remesher for Blender. And lastly, I used Clay Polish real quick to clean up the retopologized mesh with a single click. It's a fantastic utility. Blender has a similar one, but it doesn't offer as much control. So yeah, after just a few mostly automated steps, you can see just how much better it looks. I could have done all of this here, it just would have taken longer. And now with the updated topology, it is now a much more pleasant experience to refine and also add some more detail. So I'd say that Quad Remesher is a must for anybody serious about modeling. I've never used it, but I've read that it works exactly the same as Z-Remesher, which is extremely powerful, and it's made by the same person. Now if we could only get the person who made Transpose Master to do the same thing, that would be really swell. Okay, so after refining for a little bit, I turned on edges and cavity in the viewport, which I just think looks nice and works really well for this style. And you also saw me very roughly sculpt in the edge of the mask. And next I wanted to add the actual head. I was wondering whether to use my base mesh for this, and It's kind of a tight fit, but I knew it was gonna need a lot of sculpting to fit the style in any case. So I kind of just moved it inwards using the grab brush, and then I decided on a different approach. It would have been too much of a hassle to shape the realistic head into an anime style. I know it's not even seen, but I just couldn't keep taking it seriously knowing that that head was underneath. And I won't be making a detailed head, but I wanted to quickly see if I could capture the style, and also if I could make it look good while still fitting inside the mask. Again, great character designs in this game. But yeah, I am keeping this very low poly. I think in the end I didn't even subdivide this at all. By the way this character is drawn, he kinda reminds me of Tom Hiddleston a little bit. Maybe that's just me. And so this is mostly going to be it for the mask and the head. So next we're moving on to the hair. Again, using the standard approach here, using a path curve and then a shape for the hair curve profile. And I didn't want to spend too much time on the hair, simply because I'm doing this for fun and I don't find hair as much fun as, say, sculpting or traditional modeling with polygons. I wonder if anyone else feels the same way. Anyway, at least the controls here are very intuitive, so it's a much nicer experience compared to everything else I've used before Blender. As a quick recap, we have Ctrl-T to twist hair segments and also Alt-S to scale them up and down. And what I also like to do occasionally is select multiple hair curves, usually all of them, then go into edit mode, select some segments with soft selection, hide viewport overlays which I've mapped to Shift F1, and then move those segments around to make more global changes to the hairstyle. So all of this combined makes it pretty quick and intuitive. And now all that's left is the clothing. The shirt collar and the necktie I made with just very simple poly modeling. And his torso is more sensible to just sculpt. I blocked out the arms with cylinders, Ctrl-J to join them with the rest of the torso, and then just voxel remesh to join the whole thing into a single mesh. I should note that if I were making this for production, I would make a separate object for the coat. Right now this is going to be just more of a speed sculpt where I make the whole thing into a single mesh, but I will make a whole course on how to do things for production later this year. I'm still in the early stages of preparing it. So anyway, now I'm blocking out the color of the coat and then just giving it some thickness with Solidify. Some small refinements here and there. I didn't put a lot of effort into the back. Initially I was actually just planning on making only the mask, but I just got carried away as usual. And only just now I noticed that the inside of the collar should be black. Also, thankfully I learned last time that sculpting a straight line here is done with its own dedicated stroke method rather than a shortcut like in Zbrush. Come to think of it, it's probably a good idea for me to assign a shortcut for it here as well. So anyway, here's the necktie now as well, which I just made with simple geometry and then subdivided. I really like those big stylized folds they've added to it. It gives a lot of visual interest to the chest area. And this is about where I decided I should finish up this exercise. As always, I'd love to know what you think about the end result. Anyway, this was fun. And again, fun game, I recommend it, not affiliated.